Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Friday, February 21st, 2025, and today's topic I'm going to call Imagination, Study, and Style. But before we begin, welcome back if you're returning, welcome if you're new. I sketch and post every day, and I set a timer to stay focused and to build a habit. I'll set a 10-minute timer. And yeah, today's topic is Imagination, Study, and Style, which is, if you know, you may know or you may not. I call that the AoS Triad, and I'll link to a video I made a while back, which is called Introducing the AoS Triad. So Imagination, Study, and Style as it pertains to drawing. And yeah, I'll link to that one. I haven't listened to it, but I'm going to go over some more thoughts. It's been a while and I've been practicing it, but I know I introduced it and I talk about it at least once a week, probably more often. I definitely use it every time that I draw. We'll go over that. And then the other thing is I'm going to be drawing on the same page that I did yesterday. I won't link to the video, but it's from yesterday if you're curious. So yesterday's video was called The Daily Sketching Routine, which is important. I believe in it. But like I said in yesterday's video, it doesn't, use whatever works for you, obviously. Yeah, let's talk about this. So imagination. So again, I'll bring this up over and over. I just didn't want to draw the diagram on this page because I like the layout of it. I sketched a little bit yesterday, and so in this little area I'm going to just draw from imagination, but of course I have some sketches here which I did from Pinterest, and I'll do some of that today. I'll do a mix of different things just because of the topic. So yeah, just to kind of get warmed up. So drawing from imagination is like this. So I have some ideas. So you could really, so in that video, in the introduction video, I just kind of drew like random things. So this one is kind of like random, but it's going to have a little bit more of a theme just because I got started here. So yeah, I have no idea like what I'm going to draw right here. So just from this, let's just draw like how about a jester? So I'm just going to just come up with something. And so the idea with drawing from imagination is that studies help. So like, yeah, like these are kind of like studies, but then I stylized it. So that's the other thing, is the stylization part. And it just takes some practice, but that's why I want to do it, because of the practice. So part of the imagination thing is, like, I wouldn't know to draw this if I wasn't looking at something, which is what studying is, like really kind of just looking at stuff. But then with imagination, a lot of it it takes visualization, and yeah, it does take practice. It's like if you don't do it for a while, then it uses your brain. So whatever part of your brain imagines stuff and visualizes stuff. So there's that. And then for like the style, so style is, I feel like sometimes people overthink it, and I've had to think about it too. So one, this is a style, just this way of drawing is a style, and then so it's kind of similar to like handwriting in that kind of way. And then the other thing is the pen and ink kind of thing is a style, like the look of it. So that's style. And then even the theme. So I like to do sort of fantasy just because that's what I'm working on and that's what I like. So that's also a style, like the motif, the genre. So I wouldn't overthink it. So yeah, this is my warm-up right here. This is just from imagination. But of course it was informed by the fact that I had some sketches. But then on this page, the previous page, like that was from imagination. I just wanted to do it just to see, because it does actually use a different kind of process, and that's why I find it interesting and I was curious about it. So just sketching from imagination, just to get warmed up. I talked about in yesterday's video as far as like the routine. You could do it for a minute, you could do it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, if you want to practice it. So my point is that it does require some practice to do that. Now, when you're starting out, I'll continue this a little bit, and I'll keep kind of adding to this. So again, still from imagination, it could just be the construction. So for example, how do I want to explain this? So let's say I'm going to construct this figure. So I just kind of drew that like real quick. And then the other way would be if I kind of drew in like where the hands would be. So that's a way of drawing from imagination. In other words, you could construct the figure like this. Could use a pencil to do this. I mean, I'm not saying like one way is better than the other. I'm just saying like these are just different ways of doing it. So you can, it would still be just something you're visualizing, or it's kind of like visualizing, but you're constructing it. So you're kind of using study, which that's how I even know to do this. You can use study. So like you studied how to, or like if you're watching this video, for example, you can see how somebody does something and then study. Like light and shadow, you can study to see like how they work. And so it's like it's a mix of stuff that you've studied or memorized or practiced, mixed with something that you just came up with, inspired by maybe other sketches, that kind of thing. So yeah, I wanted to show that real quick. And then for this thing, so from yesterday's video, I had like some thumbnails on Pinterest, just on like the feed, the front page. And so the other way to do it would be, yeah, kind of like what I just did here, but sort of kind of the other way, which is to look at something. So I have, since I save a lot of pictures of reference and stuff, so I have like some hand reference, although it's different like from this. So that's one way to kind of, I can kind of look at hand reference that isn't the same, but kind of similar, and just use that for like a way to add detail to the imaginary, the sketch from imagination. So that's one way to do it. The other way is like if I draw a gesture like this, then I can look up a gesture, which I'm not going to do, but like I could, or I could just leave it like this. I like to, I mean, that's kind of like the fun of sketching, and especially sketching from imagination, because then you can like kind of come back. So this one, I just saw a picture and just drew it, but I wasn't trying to study it. I was kind of studying it, but using mostly style and imagination, which allows me to come up with a character. That's what I did here too. So this one was a little bit closer to like the thing I was looking at, but like it's kind of easy to copy, so there's no point in that. Like if you copy something, then people can see, oh, okay, well, like that's what you used as reference, which is sometimes the point, but like sometimes that isn't the point. So it's kind of up to you to figure that out, to play around with that. So with that said, one of the things I wanted to do was work on like some heraldry, and so I was saving some images, so that kind of like popped up. So just for like inspiration, I'm going to kind of do this. Like again, which isn't really what is, it's kind of what's on the screen. But that's kind of my example of what I'm talking about. And so in some ways this is like a layout, and then you can make stuff up. So the idea kind of came from some medieval like illuminated manuscript type stuff, but then just based upon looking at the sketchbook here or the sketch page, you can just kind of make stuff up. So just some ideas. So from here I'm going to do kind of what I did just to kind of wrap up this video, and I'll talk about the imagination study and style as I do this. Maybe I'll zoom in to right here. So in this area, so yeah, I'm going to look at just a picture. Again, I'm not even like really browsing. I just kind of opened up the Pinterest feed, and I'm going to, one, there is heraldry, so I'm going to just do that real quick, maybe right here. And because I don't want to actually copy the thing, but the thing is, heraldry is a kind of style, like as a matter of fact, so I do want to know a little bit about it. But I kind of want to just get like that's what I mean about like the study. I just kind of want to get the idea, and then I'll kind of do my own thing. So just to, if I did just want to get the idea, I might, so I had started to do some, I think in the world building video, I talked about having some heraldry going on. So part of what I'm doing here is to just get the aesthetic of it, like how it's drawn, and then I'm going to give myself enough room to look up animals and figure out how I want to sort of like make it work in the world building that I'm doing, the story that I'm working on. So just wanted to have something like that real quick, because that's on my Pinterest feed. So obviously you can just scroll around and find something, but I find that sometimes then it becomes boring because you're just looking for something to study, rather than sort of, it's a different part of the brain or the mind or something. So for example, I didn't scroll, I'm just kind of looking at what's on there, and then I'm gonna just kind of see what comes up. Like for example, I'm going to construct it using stuff I've talked about in the figure drawing playlist. I'm going to construct the figure, but as far as like the imagination part, I don't have to think about it, because since the picture is there, and then somehow it will the idea is that it will magically sort of become some original kind of thing. Again, part of it is based upon this stuff too, but like this started off as a blank page. So part of what's going on here for me is, if I sit down with the intention like, okay, I'm going to like draw stuff for like the story I'm working on, it's going to be pretty generic. Like that's kind of what I'm getting at. It's going to be not that imaginative. So it's a mixture of sort of doing these studies, sort of looking at life or like reality or like works, other people's works. Because ultimately that's what inspired, like that's kind of what's inspiring anyways, the fact that stories and art are out there, but at the same time you're wanting to create something. So create something like your own vision, your own story. So this was inspired by what popped up on the on Pinterest, like the feed, and I didn't even go looking for it. But then this is a style right here, this kind of like pen and ink rendering style. And then the idea is basically turning all of this into sort of something I can use for my world building. Although I'm going to put this under the basics because I feel like it's sort of touching upon like basic drawing, which does not mean, basic drawing does not mean easy. It's basic though, but it doesn't mean that it's necessarily easy. Which is different than, like, basic is different than like beginner level, let's just say. So at a kind of a beginner level, maybe you wouldn't draw exactly like this. I feel like at a beginner level, it's the daily sketching routine that's going to help you. So that's what I'm wanting to do with that. And then the other thing would be, if you're wondering, well, how do you construct that? Like, how do you get the proportions and stuff? So that's what the figure drawing playlist, if you're interested. And plus, there's a lot of beginner kind of tutorials and stuff. So this part of this is actually just kind of constructing things, proportions, but it's also the imagination, which is like the character, and the style is the rendering is the style. And also the genre, like the subject, like, is part of the style. So for me, I can always go back in and render, but like, this is to me like what's important. Like, this is what I care about right here. Like, this is where all the good stuff is. Aside from this, as far as like rendering, sometimes I just like to leave it open. I mean, this kind of implies a texture. This implies like a texture. If I want to have more detail, I can always look up. These things are called gambesons or something. So yeah, imagination, study, style. I wanted to, it's something I'm going to revisit over and over. And so yeah, if you want to check out that previous video, the introduction, but I'll talk about it more. But I also wanted to show kind of how it works in practice, because I feel like sometimes it's not enough just to kind of talk about it, but like, it's a mixture. It's a dynamic thing. It's not just from, so like that one was just from imagination. And then this one I was looking at something, but like turning it more towards like the imagination thing. But yeah, that'll be it for today. I want to thank you for joining me for our daily sketching routine. And if you like these videos, please support the channel. I appreciate it. And until next time, keep on sketching.